I saved up to be able to afford a university education.
So if you would describe your student life in one word, what would that be and why?
On campus, I would sum up my experience as a roller coaster. It was really a time where there were several situations, right, that I had to face. Going to the university, it was really a focused approach for me because I knew what I wanted to get out of school. Get into the school and to achieve something, right, so that I could come out in flying colors.
So looking back, would you say you were intentional as a student, or did you become intentional at some point in your student journey?
I was intentional. The other question you asked, I mentioned that there was clarity.
Welcome to the Flourishing Students Podcast. This is the podcast arm of the Awesome and Intentional Living Generation Africa. Here we talk about real life experiences of people who have gone through the tertiary institution, people who made the best use of their time while they are on campus, people who made mistakes and learned from it, and whose journey on campus is now shaping the life that they live today. Today on the show, I have my guest, Mr. John Madaeshe. Good afternoon and welcome to the Flourishing Students Podcast. I'll just read his bio briefly before we get into the conversation. Mr. John is a strategist and a digital transformation professional with several years of experiences leading strategic and technology-led initiatives. He currently leads digital transformation programs for a Pan-African financial service organization while also supporting several businesses in shaping and executing corporate strategy and digital initiative. Beyond his corporate career, Mr. John is deeply committed to youth development and social impact. He founded a community over 10 years ago, which is focused on expanding access to career and professional opportunities for young people. He also serves as a judge and a mentor on different platforms, including the MasterCard Foundation, STEM Africa, and CBES, among others. So welcome to the show, Mr. John Madaeshe. And my name is Gift Adedoyin. I am your host for today. Yes, so I'm going to be going briefly into the conversation today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what was your experience like as an undergraduate on campus?
Yeah, thank you, Mercy, and thank you for having me. John, like she said, I'm a strategist and digital transformation leader. That's what I do 9 to 5. And I have worked in the Big Four, KPMG and PwC previously. I started my career journey in 2015 as a strategy intern at KPMG. And on campus, I would sum up my experience as a roller coaster, right? So it was really a time where there were several situations, right, that I had to face. Going to the university in 2011, yes, 2011. After a trial before then, trying to get into OAU, and going to the university, it was really a focused approach for me, right, because I knew what I wanted to get out of school, to get into the school and to achieve something, right, so that I could come out in flying colors, right. It was not just a cliche, right. It was just something that I personally owned, right, going to the university. So for me, I won't classify myself as, maybe I didn't have some clarity going to university. For me, it was a time where some clarity, of course, I didn't have it all. There were some gaps, yes, definitely. Right?
But you went into school knowing why you were there.
Why I was
there was the focus from going into, before going into school, there was focus. Yes. You didn't get into school and started to find your backing. You knew what exactly you wanted to do. And you also mentioned that you spent some years before getting into school. So that means that you must have trained yourself. You were not naive. You were not fresh from secondary school. You had some time to build yourself. All right, thank you very much. So if you would describe your student life in one word, what would that be and why?
Okay, in one word, for me, my student life was resilient, right? So that's what I would say. And not just for saying sake. Why? Because resilience is about coming out of difficulties, right? So for me, going to the university, I wasn't a Nepo baby, right? Just to put that out there. And beyond not just being a Nepo baby, I saved up to be able to afford, a university education. Of course, I'm grateful to some people that also supported all the, but the major chunk of what I needed going into the university was from the savings I had for like 3 years. I think
Before
I
getting
remember
into
that
school.
figure. It was in First Bank. Then fixed deposit. That was my first time of being exposed to fixed
Investments.
deposits. Those times. So I fixed the amount close to 200,000. That's
Mm.
like 15 years ago or 15 years ago now, right? So I had that, and of course, it was not what was meant to be enough for all the needs.
The
Right?
4
So
years.
there were some times when there was nothing, so I was resilient enough to move, a bit diligent in what I was doing, and I attracted some opportunities that helped me to become resilient till I was able to scale through the university throughout the 4 years. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. So looking back, would you say you were intentional as a student, or did you become intentional at some point in your student journey?
I was intentional. I think when I started, the other question you asked, I mentioned that there was clarity, right? So I wasn't someone that was, parents were, my mom always very industrious, tried all she could. In fact, it was a counsel and some of the encouragement, right, that made me very industrious because she had a business. I remember, yes, so her business, I would
Help
work for
her.
her. When they are doing some programs, I would take some of the snacks that she sells to sell that. So she instilled on me
That
entrepreneurial spirit, right, which now made me see school as a business that I wanted to pursue, right. So that was what informed the need to count the cost, which made me save up. Then I was clear on I'm going to school to get something out of there, right? And I think for me, I was clear on why I was going to school. Of course, I chose a course that I was studying as well. So it's not just about the course; it's about going through a process, right, to become someone at the end of the day. So I was intentional about getting the best out of school, which was was an anchor that really helped me, right, through the academic journey.
All right, thank you. So, if I would get, one thing I get from what you have just mentioned was that there were challenges while going into school. There was a financial challenge, but you did not just look at that challenge. That challenge was like an opportunity to say, okay, I'm helping mommy in this regard. I'm going into school. What can I also make out of school? You were not just laid back to say, yeah, I have these challenges. I'm going into school. I don't even know how I'm going to have it figured out. There was focus. You were intentional, and that really, really shaped your time in school. So thank you very much. So what would you say are those things that specifically shaped your mindset while going into school? Yes, we've talked about your background, but are there other things that specifically changed or influenced your mindset to be intentional while on campus now?
While I was on campus,
Yes.
right? Of course, for my own background, going into the university, I've had, an experience, which born again experience, right? Which, of course, for me, I wasn't such a student that was going to go into things, that would hamper the reason why I was on campus. So that was one thing that helped, like a foundational, what's it called, principle that helped me, right? But now on campus, one of the things that also helped me was exposure to some conferences. There were several groups that usually roll out different conferences, right? On the subject of beyond campus life, right? I can remember one clearly, which was beyond Ife. I studied at Obafemi University in Ife, right? So I attended some of those conferences. Right? And not only beyond Ife, though, there were several others, and there were some being organized by even my department, right? So, annual conferences we usually have. They bring in different people. In fact, the current state Minister of State for Finance, Taro Edele, was usually one of those people that
used to
came to
come
campus
those
then.
conferences.
Right. So these conferences exposed me to beyond the campus life to some extent, right? Such that I was not just focused on what I was studying on campus, right? I was exposing myself to opportunities beyond what I was studying, right? So that shaped my mindset, and I think I would say prepared me for outside campus life, right? And to be able to see things with different horizon, right? So it was really, really instrumental to shaping my mindset regarding my career.
All right, thank you so much. So if I hear you, conferences was a major part events, communities that you belonged to,
Yep.
that organizations that organized events, they were like a major pointer to you having that excellent mindset, and they influenced your intentional living while on campus. Interesting. So we've come to the end of episode 1. We would go in the next episode. We'll talk about your challenges, how you actually prepared for life after school, the opportunities that you took advantage of, and every other thing.